On today's show, we talk to a woman who thinks she has bipolar, but maybe not. We also talk to a woman who is struggling with her relationship with food. And this is nuts. We talk to a pastor who asks me for advice on his preaching series. What? Stay tuned. Hey, what's up? What's up? This is John with the Dr. John Delony Show. Man, look at this out here, man. There's 1 million people in the lobby. I probably overstated that by 999,000 people or so. Actually, I overstated by more than that, too. Also, in addition to working on people's mental health, I'm also a part-time mathematician. I'm incredible at it. James is proud of me. Dude, it's good to see everybody out there, man. Everybody doing well? I know this sounds really annoying for the podcast listener. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, what you're looking at, anything. But anyway, and the cameras are on y'all, so I hope y'all are all not cheating on the person you're with. Hope y'all are all dating each other, because otherwise it would be weird. Yes, good to see everybody. Hey, so this is the last show before I take a break for a couple of days, man. The listener won't know, but James, you won't have to see. I'm just saying that for you. That's my Christmas gift to you. It's pretty awesome. Even though this is, in February now the show's coming out?
Just about.
January? And Jenna, I'm going to miss you.
I appreciate that.
That was awesome. That's like the high school kid that tells a girlfriend, I love you, and she says, thank you. That was awesome. Thanks for considering my feelings, Jenna. Appreciate that. Man, she is like Kelly Jr. Kelly equal. There's no even junior there, just equal. All right, let's go to Cece in Saginaw. Where are we here? Cece. What's up, Cece?
Hi, Merry Christmas, John.
You know what? Merry Christmas to you, too.
Thank you. I cannot believe Kelly deemed me worthy. I am here.
Hey, she has not deemed me worthy. So congratulations. This is a big thing. This is
Yeah, for sure.
Way to go. All right, so what's up?
Well, 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar with mixed episodes. And since then, I'm really trying to find a way to protect my marriage and to protect my daughter from the effects of the illness.
Okay. So
what's the best way to do that?
Got it. Let's fix it. You ready?
Yeah.
So I want to take the diagnostic and just put it away for a while. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Tell me about your marriage and your kids, how long you've been married, all that stuff.
Okay, so we got married in 2014, and right away we started trying to have kids, and it didn't happen.
Okay.
So for 5 years we were going through fertility treatments, and that was really, really rough.
Yeah.
His dad died, his sister died. So like we were dealing with trauma after trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were super blessed to have a daughter in 2019. And so she's 2 years old right now, and she's doing great.
How long have you wrestled with some of the symptomologies?
I can remember the depression reaching back into like high school for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were definitely begging me to like get help or like medication. And I was like, no, it's just a season. I don't need this. Well, one season always ended up going into another season, and it just got kind of deeper and deeper. So I didn't really notice manic symptoms until after I had the baby. And I went for help for postpartum, and they recommended me to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist said, these hallucinations you're having, these intrusive thoughts you're having, they're really not postpartum, it's bipolar. So that's how I ended up there.
So will you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
Nope, you know what? It's not even doing me a favor. You and I are best friends for sure. But this favor is for you.
Okay.
For your kids and your child and future kids to come, if y'all so choose, for your husband. I want you to go talk to some people in your community.
Okay.
And find a good... Do you have a good relationship with your OBGYN now?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah.
Is he or she?
He. Yep.
Is he the one who referred you out to psychiatrist, or did you meet with him?
I met with his social worker at his office, and they referred me out.
Okay. I want you to get a second opinion on that, okay?
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. Talk to me about mixed emotions. That's a very niche bipolar diagnostic. What does that mean to you?
So at the time, I'm trying to dig back because it's been 2 years now. So at the time, it felt like I could crawl out of my skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was so depressed, and at the same time, like I was just shaking inside my body. So for me, the mixed really, it kind of surprised me because I don't quite understand it. You know what I mean? Like
Here's the way I've heard it described is, so for instance, if you meet somebody with bipolar and they're having a manic episode, it's, in all honesty, it's one of my favorite people on earth to be around. It's mayhem and it's chaos and it is laughter and it is 1,000 miles an hour. And the folks that I'm in close relationship who have bipolar manic phases, I laugh so hard. It's a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding of, and this is so rare, that's why I'm asking you, is a mixed emotion would be somebody who is, let me back up. Somebody with bipolar without mixed emotions, they are running high, and it's this sense of optimism, this sense of I can take on the world. It is this sense of I can do everything better than you. And in my case, they're right. Like they can get stuff done in 3 days that it would take me 2 weeks to do, right? That mixed emotions is their body is running like that, but their mind is still super sad. Their mind is still super depressed. They have no optimism. They've got no energy about accomplishment and what we're going to do, and we're going to turn this corner, and then you and I are going to get married, and we're going to go do this and this and this and this. It's not that. Their body's running that fast, but their heart and spirit is still under the covers saying, I just want this to stop.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever been like that before. Like it was mostly just like everything is so bad, and I can't stop the world around me to take a breath.
So I'm gonna give you my opinion, and that's
okay.
It's gonna be worth what you're paying for it. Okay.
Okay.
I do not like at all. I do not like I don't like postpartum diagnostics.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean not postpartum depression as in another diagnostic, but somebody who is struggled for years with infertility, someone who's gone through lots of trauma, somebody who then has a baby. And how was your pregnancy? Was it carefree and exciting?
Yeah, it was just fine. It was like the depression abated for a while.
Okay. And then your body goes through what just happened after the baby's born, and everybody experiences that different. That re-regulation, the hormones, what's life going to be like, your relationship with your husband's different. He's got his trauma he's dealing with, and now he's got a little kid, and how's this going to look? And any old stuff from your past is now coming up, and then and then just tag somebody in the middle of that with a diagnosis of a mental health disorder feels not right to me.
Well, and the funny thing is that I found it out by accident. The psychiatrist never told me. She just threw some pills at me, and I went online to take care of a bill on my app for the hospital.
Yeah.
And I just happened to look at my notes, and the diagnostic was on there, and I had to ask her, is this really what's going on? And she's like, well, yes, because your dad is bipolar.
Oh my gosh, dude, go get another. You're going to get me all fired up, and I'm going on vacation tomorrow. So listen.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. You don't apologize for me, nothing, man. I'm on the same team. I want you to go get a second opinion, and I want you to walk them through what happened. Okay?
Okay.
So
okay.
How far removed are you from your initial diagnosis?
2 years.
Okay. So throw the diagnosis, put it in a drawer, and let's close that drawer.
Okay.
Right now, something is worrying you about the way you are parenting, the way you are loving your husband, the way you're taking care of your family and friends, the way you're taking care of yourself. What about your environment now? What about you right now is making you nervous to ask, how do I protect my kid and my marriage from me?
So I feel like I'm not as emotionally available as I should be.
Who told you should be what?
Well, so like my husband's like, I can never make you happy, and then I just kind of translated that into like I'm not showing him enough that I'm happy, and if I'm not showing my emotions, am I hurting my family by like not showing them that I'm okay with our dynamics, if that makes sense.
So are you feeling joy at home and it's just not demonstrative, or are you running pretty low? Are you remembering back to high school when you just ran low?
I feel like I'm fine inside, and that the world is like not, or like the people around me aren't seeing it.
Okay.
Because they'll be like, "Are you having a bad day today? What's wrong today?" And I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm just a resting witch face. I don't know."
Whatever. No, you're not. So here's
I'm afraid that my daughter will not think that I love her because I'm not showing her that I'm happy.
Okay.
And I think it's part of like what I experienced. Like my dad emotionally withdrew when he had his breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm afraid that I'm doing that now.
So let's not be afraid. Let's speak in data points.
Okay.
Are you withdrawing from your daughter?
Yeah. So at some level, because there'll be days where I can't function that well, and I feel guilty about that.
Yeah. Are you withdrawn from your husband?
No, I'm trying very hard not to.
Okay.
I'm like, if I realize that I'm doing it, then I go and like give him a hug or touch his face, or
there you go. Yeah.
Like scratch his back or something, like to physically connect us.
Mm-hmm.
But
so Cece, can I ask you something?
Sure.
Children of somebody with true bipolar disorder, they often will spend their life trying to make sure everybody else is okay because they had to,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they become the broker of joy in the house. They become the peacemaker in the house. They become the agent of safety in the house. And it's both exhausting and not their job. It is in that time, but then over time, it becomes not your job in your workplace or in your marriage or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need right now? You're doing a lot of thinking for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
What do you need?
I need to just like relax, like just let it go,
Don't hold it back anymore. That was just my Frozen reference. Sorry. What do you want to let go?
I want to let go, like the responsibility I feel over other people.
Well, you have responsibility over your daughter.
Well, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
All right. Here's my full recommendation. You ready?
Ready.
The things you're describing to me on a 3-minute phone call, right, or a 10-minute phone call, sound a lot like an exhausted parent of a 2-year-old. Sound like somebody who's married to somebody that she loves, and y'all have been through hell and back the last 5 or 6 years, and you've probably kept running and kept running and kept running. And at some point, that trauma catches up with everybody. So it sounds like a new mom who grew up in a disconnected home. And growing up in the home of somebody with bipolar is chaotic and it's scary. And sometimes it's scary because that person disappears, and sometimes it's scary because that person's sitting right there and they're not even present.
Mm-hmm.
And was your mom married to him?
Yes. Yeah, they stayed married through the whole thing, but it was rocky for a time.
That's right. So I want you to think in terms of your body. Your body remembers this story and it doesn't end well. And so what your body's trying to do is protect you from a story that it knows. And what you have to do is to teach your body, both through thinking and through how you act, that you're safe now. This is a new story. This is different.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that retraining your body will come through partnership with a psychiatrist if you have bipolar disorder. Some of that will come through marriage counseling because your husband's going to have his own trauma work to do too. He's had a lot of loss. And he's been, in his head, he's been propping up a scared wife for 5 years or 6 years, or a heartbroken wife or an exhausted wife or whatever, right? And now you got a 2-year-old and you're looking at your relationship saying, what do we do now? And it's all different. And when things get all different, then we start putting stories in each other's heads. And his story is, she doesn't like me. Because if she liked me, it would look like this. And your story is, if I wasn't broken, I would be acting like that. And what I want y'all to do is to go see a good marriage counselor and say, we have a new baby. We've been through a lot of loss. We've been through 2020, 2021. Whew. I've got to deal with my dad's stuff. You've got to deal with all the loss and your dad's stuff. Let's do this together. And then you're going to get some new tools. And probably neither of you have any sort of model for what this will look like. Fair?
Mm-hmm. Very fair, yeah.
So here's what I want, the word I want you to keep in your head as you move forward is curious, not judgmental. Okay?
Okay.
Listen to me closely. You are not broken. Your body's trying to take care of you. Okay?
Thank you.
Do you promise you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. A psychiatrist or a counselor or a mental health practitioner should never, ever secretly diagnose you with something in order to throw pills at you or to get some sort of insurance reimbursement. If somebody's going to tag you with a label that will last forever, diagnostically, they should sit down and walk you through what this means, how y'all will be in partnership together as you learn new ways to live and to love and to connect, and what role pharmaceuticals will play and how short of a time that will play. They should have a heart of a teacher. They should not have secrets. That's unethical. It's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a partnership. You're worth more than that. That's what I'm telling you. Okay, CC?
Thank you.
Now, you may go meet with a psychiatrist and they're like, for sure bipolar. For sure. Okay?
Right.
And what that will mean is you're going to sit down with a marriage counselor, you and your husband, and y'all are going to walk through, what does making sure I take my medicine look like? What does making sure I move my body and I take a bunch of fish oil every single day, even when I don't want to? What's it look like to make sure I'm having skin-to-skin contact with family members, even on the days I want to crawl under my blankets and not come out? What's it look like the days you leave me alone and let me have my day under the blanket so I can come out strong the next day? What does exercise look like when I can't move my body? Right? That's when you get in, that's what creating a life worthy of living, worthy of having joy and laughter and fun and dealing with bipolar. That's what that life looks like. It's intentionality. It's about thoughts and behaviors. It's not about the diagnostic. The diagnostics part of life is what it is. You haven't convinced me you have bipolar is what I'm saying. And we've only talked for 10 minutes, so I don't know you that well. Your husband may be like, for sure bipolar. I don't like this. I don't like the way the whole thing was done. It just feels gross to me that you take somebody in the middle of a mess and tag them forever. I don't like it. And I didn't go to med school, so put your mean notes in the YouTube comments. Fun ruiners. But I do want you to go get a second opinion. You're worth that. I do want you and your husband to be curious about one another and go to a marriage counselor and say, all right, we got a new baby. We've had a lot of trauma. We're in this together for the long haul. And so we're going to have to find new ways to talk to each other, new ways to be sexually intimate together, new ways to parent, because we've never seen it done right before, or not right, we've never seen it done healthy before. We got all this new stuff to learn, and I'm so glad I get to do it with you. And we're going to figure this thing out together. So go see somebody. Make both of those calls today. Make them both today. And you're going to be on the road to healing. We'll be right back on the Dr. John Delony Show. Hey, good folks and friends and listeners to the Dr. John Delony Show. The world is bonkers, right? We all know this. And one of the most common questions I get is, how do I find a counselor in the chaos? I've reached out and there's a 6-month waiting list, or I can't afford it, or they only take insurance, or I can't get off work in time to go see somebody and it's way across town. What do I do? Because I want help with my anxiety, my depression, my relationships are hanging on by a thread. I want to be a better mom. I got to process this trauma that happened to me when I was a kid. Where do I find a counselor? So I partnered with BetterHelp because BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, even live chat sessions, so you don't even have to look at your therapist when you're talking to them if you don't want to. I've taken away all your excuses, and it's more affordable than in-person therapy. And these are real licensed therapists. If you reach out to them, you will be talking to somebody within 48 hours. Dr. John Delony Show listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Delony. Please reach out if you need help. That's betterhelp.com/Delony. All right, we are back. Let's go to Liz in Bangor, Maine. What's up, Liz?
Hey there, Dr. John. How are you?
So good. What about you?
I'm living the dream.
Are you really? What's that like?
Nightmares can be dreams too, so.
I work on a podcast with James. So what's it? I'm just kidding. I love it. I'm living my dream. I'm living my BL, my best life. Hey, so what's up? How can I help?
So I have a question for you. How can I cultivate self-discipline when it comes to eating?
Are you setting me up? I'm the worst person to answer this call for you.
Yeah, I've been listening for a little while, so figured you might be one of the best people, so.
I feel like you're making fun of me a little bit, Liz, but it's okay. I'll go with it. All right, tell me about your relationship with food.
Well, I've always struggled with my weight, starting from the time I was probably a mid to late teenager. I've kind of just been yo-yoing.
Okay, stop right there.
Since, really.
What started the relationship with food when you were a teenager? Did something happen?
No, I think it's just my metabolism caught up with me, and I just ended up gaining a bunch of weight. And then I think there might have, I don't know, it's just kind of happened.
I've always
been a little bit.
You're about to say something.
I've always been a little bit larger than everyone else, but it just kind of it started catching up to me, I guess.
Okay.
So.
And how old are you now?
And I'm 28.
28 now. Okay. And then so you've been yo-yoing, and then what?
Well, I am sick of yo-yoing, and I'm trying to figure out ways to, I'll be really disciplined for a shorter amount of time, and then I'll get off the bandwagon and I'll just gain all the weight that I lost back. And I've been trying to learn how to make sustainable everyday life changes that I can stick to, because, I don't want to, I'm riding out my health in my 20s for sure. And I'm not going to be in my 20s forever, and my health is going to catch up to me. So.
Do you like yourself?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Why do you like Liz?
Because I'm adventurous and I'm fun and I work hard.
Yeah.
And I am a great sister and daughter and friend and employee and coworker.
So you told me a bunch of...
I don't have both.
You told me a bunch of external metrics. Those are great performances. Mm-hmm. Why do you like Liz? You told me a lot of things Liz does, especially for others. What does Liz do for herself that she loves?
I work hard, and I enjoy hiking and backpacking. I enjoy spending time with my cat, and I don't know. I'm a student, and I work hard with that.
Do you have good character?
I would say so, yeah.
Do you tell the truth?
Overall. More or less, yeah.
Mostly. Here's what I'm getting at. I always want to know if when someone's got a challenging relationship with food, is it truly between the food, or is it a defense mechanism for something else going on. I started tracking, I've done this several times in my adult life. I started tracking my food intake, and particularly around food that I know is unhealthy for me. And 100% of the times I mindlessly reach for something, whether it's chips or ice cream or just stinking Tyler made his grandma's cookies back in the back studio here. And he was like, I mean, you just got to. And I did. And 100% of the time, it's relational in nature or fatigue in nature. Either I'm frustrated about something, I'm disconnected from somebody. My daughter just said a thing that for some reason I decided to allow to hurt my feelings. My wife and I are off kilter. I'm frustrated with my son's math teacher. Me and my boss we're at odds. Something relational in nature. It's a unthinking, I just go do. My body has learned this makes this better for a minute.
Yeah.
Either that or the second one is I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. Do either of those ring a bell to you?
To an extent, yes.
If they don't, it's all good. That's just the way, that's just me following the data of my N=1 experiment with my body. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely, when you've talked in the past about, if there's a box of cookies open and you just eat the entire thing.
Yes.
I have that problem. Maybe not the gene to go with it, who knows, but I have that problem. I know that sometimes when I'm stressed or when I just haven't eaten in a while, I'll be much more likely to stop by and go get some fast food or something, which I've been curbing pretty good lately.
Okay.
But
so here's what the data tells me. A couple of different things, and they're across the board. And I want to preface this with saying I'm not a nutrition expert, and so I want to make sure I don't get over my skis here. I'm just going to talk to you about stuff in my life, okay, and the folks that I've walked alongside. The first thing, this is relatively recent. I've talked about on the show just a little bit. It made a lot of sense to me. This idea of chronic stress, that we are running so hard and so fast, and it's not even so hard and so fast relationally or at work. We're in bodies that did not evolve to drive 90 miles an hour to work among other 2,000-pound metal missiles that are driving next to us. We're not designed for all of the email clicks and the phone calls and the text message. We're just not designed for all the assault of marketing messages and you suck and you should look like this and not that and oh my gosh, they're not your friend and they didn't like my video and I don't like them in the real world because they didn't like me in my imaginary world. Our bodies literally are not designed to live in this world. And they've got crude response to stress. Our body does. Fight, flight. There's the fawning one, which is a different thing, and freezing. What never occurred to me, James, do you remember who this was? It Huberman or Attia? One of these smart guys that are way, way, way 10x, 100x smarter than I am. Is talking about if your body recognizes it's in fight or flight, it is going to reach for the cheapest energy source possible. Because it's in search of cheap calories that it can burn for energy right now because it thinks it's in a fight or that it is sprinting for its life. And the cheapest calories we got are cookies and chips, right? Sugar-laden carbohydrates that are going to help us get from A to B. What our bodies don't know is that we're just sitting on the couch watching Netflix. We're watching somebody else getting chased and murdered, but our body sets off to try to defend ourselves against somebody else's problems. And if we watch the news and scroll, etc. So step number one is, nope, it's not step number one. I'm going to say step number two. Step number two is look at the world you've created, your ecosystem. Are you taking care of you? Are you stressed a lot? Are you flying around a lot? Are you busy a lot? Because if you are, it might be that your body's trying to take care of you. Does that ring a bell or no? Tell me I'm off.
The stress, like the always busy or stressed, yes.
Okay.
In general.
So the next part is something I got from James Clear, and it rang more true to me than anything else I've ever read, I've ever participated in, I've never ever internalized. And that's this. He wrote his book, Atomic Habits. I highly recommend that people read that book. It's a great book. But the biggest takeaway for me from that book was this. Most of us start a weight loss goal, a relationship with food. We start these things with a number, with a destination, with a goal. And I know enough from the psychology research is that these external metrics, these external things are never sustainable because wherever you end up, there you are, right? So if you lose 20 pounds and you don't like yourself, you're going to be 20 pounds later and not like yourself. If you find yourself lonely and disconnected without relationships and you lose 50 pounds, you're going to be lonely and lose 50 pounds. And at some point, your body's going to solve that equilibrium and it's going to do what it can to solve for that discomfort. And if you do drugs, you do drugs. If you do food, you do food. If you work 90 hours a week, you work 90 hours, whatever, you pick your poison, right? So what James Clear says to do is instead of starting with, I want to lose this much weight, or I want to never eat sugar again, or something like that. He said, start with creating a new identity. And I do this every year. Like this is part of my annual routine. When I just look at my life, how have I been doing? How's my relationship? What are the identities I want to adopt this year? And so instead of saying, I want to lose a bunch of weight, or instead of saying, I want to be less heavy or less big, or I want to have a better relationship with food, instead of starting there, I start with this. I'm a guy who stewards his one precious body. That's who I am. And from there, I'm going to backfill things like people who honor their bodies, who are good stewards of their bodies, they don't eat that trash. People who are honored and steward their bodies go to bed. They don't watch Netflix, another show and another show and another show. By the way, I was up to like 1:30 doing edits on my book, and I ended up watching an episode of The Office. By the way, it's the single funniest episode, and it's in season 8, and I didn't even remember it. And I was laughing so hard by myself at 2 a.m. And the whole time I'm thinking, what kind of... You have a show that you teach people how to take care of themselves, and I'm up at 2 a.m. watching TV. You know what I mean? Like, So start with an identity. So you like yourself, and you should.
Yeah.
You're a good human being. You're a great woman. And what do you do for a living?
I work in EMS.
In EMS?
Yeah, on an ambulance.
Oh, gosh. Why didn't you lead with that? Also deal with secondary traumatic stress. Good God almighty. If you deal in other people's trauma all day, every day, your body is in fight or flight always. Always. The number of times I left a wreck and stopped at a gas station for just some nonsense on the way home was a lot. Right? Yes. Lead with that next time. So here's the thing. I want you to spend some time. This could be writing it down. It depends on how far you want to go. I want you to write down, get a small little journal, and write down a couple of identities. I'm somebody who takes care of their body. I'm somebody who will show up to somebody else's worst moment, fully present, ready to rock and roll. And so, since I'm that kind of person, this is what I have to do. I have to eat well. I have to not eat nonsense like that. I'm going to backfill those things. The numbers on the scale will take care of themselves if we live into the identity that we want to have. And here's the third big one. You have to have people who walk alongside you. Can't do life by yourself. Okay? Do you have a couple of drivers that would join you on some sort of reimagination? Like, dude, we are Team X, and this is just how we roll. This is who we are.
I'm not quite sure. I don't think
they're all
so.
like, screw you. We're going to McDonald's. Forget it.
They're not exactly the most supportive when it comes to stuff, and people bring in goodies all day, every day, especially around Christmas, because, I just work at a fire department.
Exactly. The worst. They're the best and the worst. Ugh. I know. Let's start with the identity piece. Let's start with getting a small journal, and I want every time you reach for something, I want you to stop and go, what am I feeling right now? Am I disconnected? Am I exhausted? Am I stressed? Begin to ask yourself that. It may not be at all, and if it's not, then it becomes a much simpler transition. Most of us have to find the gap between impulse and action. Because if we can find that gap, we can pause in that gap and then do another action. That's how you take control of your actions.
Okay.
And will you do me one last favor?
Sure.
Will you be so graceful with Liz?
Okay.
Because I know that you say you like her. I think there's sometimes you don't like Liz. Or sometimes you get really pissed off or ashamed of Liz. Is that true?
More so recently, yes. But this is more chronic.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't fully believe you. I think you're hedging it, but you're on in front of a million people, so I get that too. And listen, I want you to be graceful with Liz.
Okay.
Because Liz is worthy of being healthy. Liz is worthy of laughing a whole lot. She's worthy of having a night where she just eats garbage and gets up the next day and goes again. She's also worthy of changing everything just because. Just because.
Fair enough.
Is that fair?
I think so.
Awesome. Remember one last thing. Your triggers, that's your roadmap. That's the GPS towards getting well. So when you can identify those triggers, then you know to lean. Man, if you're having relationship problems, now you know I got to go work on my relationship problems. If you're running doing a job that is high stress, at some point you go, maybe this isn't the job for me, or I got to do it in a different way or in a different capacity, in a different place, because my body's saying that's enough. But whatever it is, you're worth it, Liz. And dude, I'm going to try to take care of myself. You be in too. We'll be right back on the Dr. John Delony Show. Y'all know there are lots of things that make me nuts, but one thing makes me more nuts than anything else. Buying a home. And my friends who refinance their homes, they tell me it makes them nuts too. I love living in a new home, but I gotta be honest, I'm no good at buying one. And that's why I'm so thankful for people like my friends at Churchill Mortgage. Churchill is a Ramsey trusted provider who we've been sending people to for over 20 years to help with home mortgages. Why? Because they're committed to doing what's right for you. And that means walking you through paperwork that's way over your head. That means making sure you get the right mortgage that you can pay off as soon as possible, and they don't try to upsell you a bunch of nonsense that's gonna hurt you down the road. And most importantly, when you're making this big life change, you can actually breathe, because you got an expert and a team who have your back. Listen, if you're about to buy a home and make a big change, save yourself the headache and call Churchill Mortgage today at 888-LOAN-200. Trust me, that's 888-LOAN-200.
This is a paid advertisement. NMLS ID 1591. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. Equal Housing Lender. 1749 Mallory Lane, Suite 100. Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. Programs are for select loan types only and are not available in all states or locations.
All right, we got one more call. Let's go to Michael in Macon, not Bacon, Georgia. What's up, Michael?
Dr. John, thank you for taking my call this afternoon. Listen, here's my question. I'm a pastor.
I was about to say, dude, are you a pastor? You have a pastor voice. How did you get that?
I have no idea. So listen, I grew up, my dad was in radio, was in broadcast journalism, so maybe I was supposed to be on the radio and I wound up preaching, but who knows?
Dude, you sound way better at this than I am. That's incredible, man. All right, so sorry, I was about to interrupt you and say,
pinch hit, let me know.
Are you a pastor, man? For real? That's incredible, your voice. All right, so what's up?
So I pastor here in Middle Georgia, a little town called Perry, and I'm working on my preaching plan for next year, and I'm working on a series of messages to address problematic emotions from a biblical perspective, like from the gospel. And so my question for you is, what are some, what you would say, best resources for research and for sermon prep, might even have some good application to make the scriptural applications for my people?
Not a lot of people ask me for insights to their sermons, Michael.
Well, I'm not your average bear, Dr. John.
That's a level of trust people don't usually throw my way.
Well, I read your book, Redefining Anxiety.
Okay.
I listen to your show regularly,
okay.
and I usually listen to you at 1.5 speed, so you do sound good at 1.5 speed.
Yes.
But as I read through the book, obviously it starts with the proverb right at the very beginning, and then you define the problem very clearly, and then bring the application in really well. And so I thought, that kind of resource is helpful for a layperson such as myself, who's not necessarily, obviously I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or well delved in that. So how do I help bring those two worlds together? And that's where that practical application is needed. It's helpful.
Yeah, it's so good. What a great question. So what I've noticed over the last 15 or 20 years, I'll just leave it at 15, 20 years, is a temptation by pastors to I said both a temptation and this weird expectation to become experts in everything and to have an opinion or to speak on everything as though they are at ground zero with those particular things. And now we've got pastors who are speaking on all sorts of issues. You know what I'm talking about? This is clearly not you, but it's your colleagues for sure, not you. And so I think a great place to start when it comes to a discussion on emotions, a discussion on, what you say, you want to talk about emotions, biblical emotions?
Yeah, so I'm really calling it problematic emotions, so things like anxiety, anger, grief, along that line. So the reality of pastoral ministry is that these are the conversations, and so I do pastoral counseling.
Yeah.
I have a seminary and a post-seminary degree in training and this kind of thing.
Yep.
And so these are the conversations that I have. So from like a ministry standpoint, a lot of it is really what we're talking about is biblical discipleship, helping people to understand their situation and see it through the lens of the gospel, right? And then some people need they need more help. They need to spend time with a trained counselor in that area and that kind of thing. So I'm not trying to be more than I can be.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But I know that people are sitting in the seats, and these are the things that are happening behind the closed doors at home. These are the things that they have yet to be willing to drag out in the light.
Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of drives a lot from the pastoral side of the ministry.
Yes.
So pastoring and preaching come together and meet there. So that's where it's really being driven from.
Gotcha. So number one, I want to just applaud you for leading your church through how can I help my people live more peaceful lives? How can I teach them to be better parents and better spouses and better neighbors? And that starts with handling these emotions, right? Where are these things coming from? What are they about? What I've found over the last year working here at Ramsey is letting somebody know, hey, the reason you're so raged out is because your brain's trying to take care of you, not because of this thing on politics you think is happening. It's because this thing over here is poking on you. It's giving people, right? Or one of my favorite theological quotes of all time is from Rich Mullins, which is, we often over-spiritualize Jesus. And I think there's an incredible sermon series that can be done on the human. The guy who had his heart broken, the guy who was exhausted, the guy who was laying on his face saying, the guy who had doubt, Dad, can we do it another way? I don't want to do it like this. Yeah. The guy who then got up and went anyway. Right? So when it comes to emotions, the thing that I want people to always know is we live in a world, and I'm trying to do a third way here. You may have heard me say that. We live in a world that's either forget your feelings, forget your emotions, get over it, quit being angry, suck it up. Or the other swath of our culture is all about your feelings are everything. What do you feel? And if you don't feel loved or happy or good, then you do you and YOLO and all that, right?
Right.
The third way is, and I think it's modeled biblically, is no, you got to feel that stuff and then go do. And so what I always want to, I like to start with experts, man, and not always academic experts. But I love talking to somebody who might be a marriage counselor. Would love my church to hear those kind of people. I love getting Genesis lessons from a biologist. It's awesome. It's a complete reframe, right? So if I'm you, I would look at a couple of core emotions. Chip Dodd's got some stuff out there. Henry Cloud and Townsend with Boundaries has some stuff that there are some problems that we can address. And by addressing those problems, we end up getting into the feelings and the emotions part. Then we end up getting in the, how does that apply to me? Here's what I mean. Sometimes let's talk about being angry. It's easy to go, I'm not angry. I just drive 95 miles an hour and dig my fingernails into my car, right? I'm not angry. Sometimes, especially men, we tend to shy away from our emotions. I love to come at things more problem-based. That's why we do this show. People might look on there and say, dude, I got nothing to learn from somebody with bipolar disorder. And we get to the end and they're like, oh gosh, I need to take control of fill in the blank. So similarly, if I'm doing a series on emotions, I might do a series on how to be a better dad. Because a part of being a better dad means pausing before I speak and feeling my body as it gets angry and then asking myself, surely it's not from a 4-year-old. Where is this anger coming from? Oh, it's lack of control. It's fear. It's that I'm terrified. It is whatever, right?
Okay.
How to be less anxious. What's a biblical discussion of what depression looks like? And I'm a firm believer with all my heart that the science of mental health and the neurology and all the neuroscience, all of that lines up. I mean, you're talking about ancient wisdom. It all lines up. It's like the joke with us. It's like the new old wisdom. It all lays on top of itself, right? So there's nothing to be afraid of. In fact, it's exciting for me. I like watching it when it lines up that way. So I'm going to start with this is just me. You start however you want. I mean, if you want to do a whole series on feelings, Chip Dodd's got a book out on feelings that's a good resource just to walk people with the I think he's got 7 core feelings. Some have 15 core feelings, some have 5, whatever. You can do that. I just know in my life, I tend to go, I'm not emotional, so I don't need this lesson. It's not for me. I'll just play on my phone. But if you say, hey, how to be a better husband, I'll listen to you. I'll give you 10 minutes on that and see if you can convince me. Or how to get a good night's sleep. You know, you talk about the fruits of the Spirit. Is there anything more peaceful than a guy falling asleep on a boat when everybody else is thinking they're going to drown? Like there's just a level of peace there. Like we don't even know what that feels like, man. So that's where I would look at it and then reverse engineer it. Does that answer your call? I feel like I'm just rambling at you now.
No, it does. It helps very much. So obviously in that opening, you got to hook. You got to give them the reason that they say, hey, I need to stay dialed in and listen to what he has to say and what he's sharing. So it's extremely helpful the way you backed into that.
The other thing is after people feel those feelings, I want them to demand evidence from them. Is this true or is this not true? And if I can get somebody to demand evidence instead of acting on that feeling, the whole world changes. The whole world changes. If somebody cuts me off and instead of flipping them off, grabbing my gun, tailgating them, somebody cuts me off and I can pause and say, what am I so mad about? And I go, oh, I lack control here. I fill in the blank. Then I can calm down and slow down, man. Because tailgating them is not going to do anything but put me at greater risk than what they just, right? So can I just have a gap there? And then I want to teach people, man, I don't know what's happened to you in the past. Everybody I know's got garbage, some worse than others. But we all have to wake up today and say, what are we going to do today? Right? And that's getting up the next day after the garden and saying, I don't want to do this. And then saying, but I'll go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that guy didn't want to stop. And with the Samaritan didn't want to stop and wherever he was going and pay for that dude's bills. But here I am. And now I get to choose what I do next. Right? Yeah. And that to me becomes the message. You got to feel your feelings and then demand evidence. And then you got to go do whatever that looks like for you. And if I can help people walk through that, then the emotion stuff tends to work themselves out, man.
Okay. Excellent. That's extremely helpful to think that through, right? So I love how you said that it helped them to feel the feeling. and then demand evidence of that feeling. What's true? What's real? What's really true in this situation?
Our feelings lie to us a lot. Our feelings are
Sure.
just our body's way of trying to communicate with us, right? And our body, if it can communicate that we're going to die, it will get us out of a situation. It will help us fight a situation, or help us it'll help us hide in a situation, but it keeps us alive, and that's our body's job. Our body's job is not to help us have great marriages or to have good jobs long term or to make good investment decisions. Body's job is to keep you alive. And man, sometimes those feelings, they lie to us. They over-sensationalize, they over-dramatize, they whatever, because the body's trying to get a reaction out of you. Can I just feel that feeling and go, whew, this is crappy. I'm in a season of mourning that hurts. And still I got to go eat right. Man, she really hurt me just now. But I'm still going to empty the dishwasher because that's what I said I would do. Man, if we can get people to do that in our churches, in our schools, in our communities, we're talking about a different planet, right?
Yeah, I think over the years, the church has not intentionally meant to be this way, but I think we've probably simplified or not really answered the questions that people are asking. And so because we don't know what to say, we just say simple platitudes like, well, you just need to pray about it. Not that the discipline of prayer is not integral in the spiritual growth and the victory that people have in this. But they're dealing with real feelings and really trying to live, Monday through Friday and do it well. Like ultimately, life is complicated and they're just trying to get it right. Yeah. And so I feel like they have questions, and I'm just not certain that we've really taken the time as the church to answer them in a healthy way that roots them back into the scriptures. I think we've just been afraid. I think the church is afraid to address things that might get a little messy, to be honest with you.
I think the church as a whole has absolutely embarrassingly, dismally met the needs of the questions people in their churches are asking. I think you're exactly right. And it takes a group of brave pastors like yourself to lean in and say, what are y'all hurting with? We'll start there.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, you get a group of people. I think the same thing with our school system, man. I think the same thing with politics. People are talking about, what are you talking about? I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can't tell you the number of times I've heard a sermon and I just looked at my wife like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're even saying. Or I'm sitting in a continuing ed program like, do you hear the words coming out of your mouth? It doesn't even make sense. It's just a platitude on top. Yeah, on top of a platitude, on top of a platitude. It's time that all of us get very intentional about the real questions people are asking.
Well, because those are real people in the scriptures. I mean, Jesus is real, and the Gerasene demoniac was a real person, and Nicodemus was a real person, and Zacchaeus was a real person, and David and Goliath, and Peter and Paul. All these, they're real people. This is not like Aesop's fables or whatever. And so there are human emotions that are played out, as you've pointed out already, that are played out on the pages of the scriptures in front of us. And so, even Jesus described, as he went from town to town, he described the people as harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. I mean, that was how he first observed people, when he walked into town. And then he went to the business of teaching, ministering, and bringing healing. So he was not just dropping, making mic drop moments with his theology. He was applying that in real life and helping people right where they were at. And that's what we're trying to do. And
but also
to create some conversation with people.
Also, he got people water.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or he talked to women when women weren't supposed to be talked to. He went into situations that people said, you shouldn't be there. And he's like, no, this is where I'm at. Right? And so there's an action to it. There's a disruptive, spirit. I'm going to be about loving people. And that means I'm going to get in the mess. And I'm going to get between somebody trying to hurt you. I'm going to sit down on the ground and draw on the dirt. That's how close to this thing I'm going to get. And
right.
Yeah, man, if we get
go ahead. I was to say, we're to minister. Yeah, we're to minister that grace and love of Jesus, and it just can't be slung at from a distance. I mean, you have to step into those lanes. Yeah. Not take it on. I can't take on everybody's. I can't take on everybody's problems. I did that as a young pastor, thinking I was supposed to fix everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get fried and cooked and burned out. That's exactly right. But
right, and I took it all home, and so. But you still got to be able to step into those lanes and meet people where they're at.
That's exactly right. And I think a humility of a pastor to say, tonight or this morning I brought in for 20 minutes of the 40 minutes a first responder who's running the street right now. Here's what our neighborhoods look like. Here's the fear this person feels. And then tying that back. We learn through story. Jesus taught through parables. We learn through narrative. I won't get down that road. That's more of a controversial road. But we learn through story. We learn through experience. Here is a teacher. Here's what her world has been the last 24 months. So when you talk about anxiety, this is what this feels like. When it talks about carrying burdens, here's what this actually feels like. And the more we can make this stuff real, the more we can make these lessons not just so these things that you sew on a pillow, but a way we treat each other, a way we lean into discomfort, a way that we sit with people on the margins of our society. Dude, you're talking everything. Everything changes. Everything changes. And people just start talking way, 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 way less and loving and doing way, way, way more. So thank you so much for calling. I don't know if that helps, man. There's a reason nobody asked me to preach. Speaking of preaching, today's song of the day. I knew we were going to go with this artist. I just couldn't figure out which hit we were going to use until I realized, he only had one. One. This one's for those my age and listening. I'm not even going to tell you the name of the song. It just goes like this. Yo, VIP, let's kick it. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly and I flow like a harpoon. Daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock the mic like a vandal. I light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle. Dance. Go rush the speaker that booms. I'm killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly? When I play a dope melody, because anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it, you better gang way. You better hit bullseye. James don't play. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Just check out the hook while James Child revolves it. See you soon.